Welcome back to Gloved Up Garage. In this episode, I'm still working on getting this car roadworthy. Part of that is the braking system, as I had discussed in a previous video. It's very squishy. The pedal is very squishy. I don't feel comfortable driving the vehicle. The vehicle stops when I move it up and down my driveway. It stops just fine, but it takes a lot of pedal travel. And what I believe is wrong with the vehicle, after I bled using the ABS service procedure that I talked about in a previous video, I did that procedure twice. I got a little bit of air out of the lines, nothing really crazy, nothing that would give me the pedal feel that I'm experiencing. Prior to that, I have bled the brakes 3 times just using the normal method of pumping the brakes and adding fluid and using the vacuum pump to basically suck the fluid through the lines. Still, with a combination of all that, if there was any air in the system, it would have come out. I would have got a noticeably better pedal feel as that went through. I did not. It stayed the same. I still have a very squishy pedal. The only thing it could be at this point is it's got to be the brake booster, which was mounted right there. The brake booster on these cars, from the research I've done, was actually carried over from the 2001 and 2002 Crown Vics. The brake system on those cars isn't really much different from these, but for whatever reason, the booster has a different part number, and apparently it has a different feel to it. So in 2003 and up, Crown Vics and Grand Marquis, they got a better brake booster. I feel like it has better feedback. It's a much more solid pedal, so that's what I'm going with. I took advantage of O'Reilly's overnight shipping and went ahead and ordered up a remanufactured brake booster from an '04 Crown Vic. My brake booster is actually over here on the floor, and you can see it's got a big M on it, and there's some speculation over the years about that being specific to the Marauder. None of the research I've done as far as researching part numbers really says definitively whether it is specific to the Marauder or not. When I pull that number up on Rock Auto, it actually comes up as 0102 Crown Vic, comes up 2000 to '02 Town Car, and Gray Marquis, of course. So to get that booster out, there's 2 bolts that hold the master cylinder on, or I should say 2 nuts, one on each side of the master cylinder. And then on the inside is where the rest of the bolts are. It's really not that hard. It took me about 5 minutes to get off. And what you do, grab a couple of extensions, and you can see those bolts right there, or the holes with the studs on the back of the booster pass through. And then you can also see the rod on the brake pedal. That rod is right up there, if I can get a good angle, right up there at the top. That rod actually goes to the back of the booster. That's what connects your pedal to the booster, and that's what actually applies the pressure. So it's got a return spring on the pedal. You can see here's the four nuts that hold the studs, hold onto the studs and go through the pedal assembly. You've got your brake light switch and then a clip that holds it on. So about, I'd say maybe 10 minutes, I had the thing out, and that included taking the plastic shield that goes under the dash off, which is kind of a pain. It's got a couple of Christmas tree clips that hold it on. It can be a little difficult to get off. So got that off of there, and I'm going to pick back up. Once the new part gets here, we'll throw it in. Well, the new brake booster arrived today from O'Reilly's. I ordered this on Wednesday. Today's Friday. It got here this morning. Ordered it kind of late in the day on Wednesday, so I wasn't sure if it was going to be here in time, but it made it. So it came in almost like a bare metal finish, like a clear coat over top of it. Wasn't real happy with the finish. I went ahead and broke out the scuff pads and some alcohol and wiped it down really good. It had some grease on it, and then hit it with a scuff pad, and then hit it with some engine enamel spray paint. So this will be good enough for what I wanted to do. I'm not really concerned about how great this looks. It's going up under the cowl. You can't really see it that good, so it really doesn't matter that much. The ducks, you can hear them in the background. They're really happy about it. They think it looks great, so that's all that matters to me. I will get this painted up on the backside, and then I'll get this mounted back up on the firewall, and I'll pick you back up there. Well, as you can see, it's back on 4 wheels, which may be a good thing, but it's not a good thing. I got the booster in, got it all mounted up, hooked up the master cylinder back to the booster, and the pedal still feels the same. So I thought, well, I'll just live with it. I'll go ahead and order a master cylinder. It's not losing pressure. It feels safe to drive. And then when I went to put it back on the ground, after putting all the wheels on, the rear air suspension bottomed out and gave me an error light on the dash for rear air suspension. So I hooked up my computer and went into ForeScan, did a quick search through that rear air ride suspension module, and it came up with two codes, one of which was C1726, the other was C1964. 1964 code, the last one, basically says that the compressor is running too long. And the first one, the C1726 code, basically says that there's a leak in the system somewhere or the compressor's bad. That's my air compressor kicking on. Not on the car, but my little 2-gallon that I use. I've got the air ride compressor out right there. Let me go ahead and turn this off because it's a little loud. I won't need it for just a little second here. And basically what's going on, I've got the air ride compressor loose. There's 3 nuts that hold it in. Then I've got the air line loose that goes back to the rear suspension. That's this line right here. This other line that's kind of dangling over, this goes over to the muffler, which is right there. Basically just quiets down the air coming in to the compressor. This will need to be replaced regardless of whether it's good or bad. The bushings that hold this to the tray that it sits in are completely shot. So it needs to be replaced. It's making a real loud noise when it runs. The compressor, it's actually putting air out, which I verified that by putting my finger over the hole that I pulled the air line out of, and I've got air coming out. So what I did is I went ahead and turned the key on, and I let this thing go through its cycle. The first cycle, it didn't feel like the rear solenoids over top of the airbags were opening. I used this air line with a little rubber tip to actually hook up to the air line on the car and put some air into the rear suspension. So I took a measurement before I got started from the lip of the fender right there to the ground in front of the wheel. So this distance right here was 27 inches. Right now I've got it inflated because on its second cycle, for whatever reason, one of the solenoids back here in the back opened. It allowed air to flow in. So using my compressor, my air compressor up front, not the air ride compressor, I was able to put air into the rear suspension and get it up to the level that it should be at, which right now is 29.5 inches. There is a sensor that's on the Watts link that does control the air ride that tells it when it's at its proper position. I went ahead and moved that sensor over yesterday thinking that maybe that was part of the problem. Maybe it just needed that little change in position to register to the computer, hey, this rear end needs to go up. That didn't help. Well, the only thing that's helped so far is this manual override that I just did. So what's this mean? I'm not really sure. First step I'm going to do, go ahead and order a new compressor. It comes with a dryer on it. That's that black cylinder right there. Excuse me, I'm a little congested. Allergies are flaring up. So go ahead and I'm going to get a compressor for it. If that does not fix it, the next step is to start tracing that air line to the rear of the car to see if there's any nicks in it, any splits or cuts. If it checks out good all the way to the back of the car, and basically what I'll do is I'll just plug this and then I'll find another opening in the rear of the car. I'll use my vacuum pump and just pump it up and make sure that that line holds vacuum. If it holds vacuum, it should hold pressure, in theory. If that line checks out okay, the next two things it could be is one of the airbags has got a leak, or the solenoid that sits on top of the airbag has a leak. The solenoids are about $35 a piece. The airbags are anywhere from $85 to $100, just kind of depends. There's a couple of different theories on which airbags this vehicle takes. Some people say it needs the limousine style where it actually holds a little bit more pressure. Other people are saying that the Crown Vic and the Grand Marquis and the Lincoln Town Car replacements are good. So I would prefer a firmer ride. So I think I'm going to go with the R-Not brand, R-Not manufacturing, the limousine airbags for the rear of the vehicle. I'm going to let this sit for a couple of days. I want to see if it leaks. So I'll let it sit here and then I'll check back probably tomorrow afternoon once I get off work and see where that gets us. So for now, on this part 2 of making the vehicle roadworthy, we're still not there. I don't trust this thing just yet, especially with the brakes and the air rod. I wanted to take this to a local Cars and Coffee yesterday morning, and I could live with the brakes, but the air suspension, there's just no way I could live with it. Kind of the final straw, and it's goofy, but when you're in that frustration mind frame, the tape deck. I bought a Bluetooth tape deck adapter, threw the cassette adapter into the radio. It's telling me I have a real error in the tape deck. So I've got another adapter that is actually a corded one that's from the 90s. I'll throw that in there and see if it works. But that was the final straw. I'm like, I can live with the brakes. I could possibly live with the suspension. As goofy as it sounds, I can't live without the Bluetooth going through the radio. It was just like sign after sign after sign. Do not take this car to this Cars and Coffee. So when you're dealing with cars that have been sitting for a while, that's something you just got to pay attention to the little stuff. The car is going to talk to you, so to speak. And it spoke yesterday and said, I'm not ready to go yet. You haven't done everything to get me ready. So that'll be it for this episode of Gloved Up Garage. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, make sure to hit the like button. Leave us a comment below. I do read all the comments, even from the haters. And make sure to hit the subscribe button with the bell notification so that you are notified when I upload a new video. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.